have a story to tell that I hope a lot of us don't have in common. It's about the loss of a really good friend of mine in a really, really brutal way. When I was about 20 years old, I lived in Dallas. That was the closest place around then. You know, that was the party scene. And I had a bunch of roommates, you know, to split the rent with and to split the fun with and the chaos and destruction. We had a good time. And I had one particular friend, and his name was Paul. And he was the funniest, sweetest, loved everybody. There was no enemy. There was no enemy that he came across. There was no one that didn't like Paul. And I will further explain that in a few minutes. But in my group of friends, he was gay, funny, loving, shifty, sexy, surprising, wonderful Paul. Just wonderful. And we would all get together and go dancing and go, you know, over to a friend's house and play Risk. We would have big Risk tournaments, or we would go, you know, to the clubs and dance, or just go out to have a bite to eat and play cards. Anyway, this was one of those nights. It was a Friday night, and those of us who'd gotten off work but ahead of Paul headed to his house and were waiting on him. And he was at work. He worked for a pizza delivery place and had been there a long time. And he... a call came in. It was on his way home, and he was like, you know, I'm on the way home. I got this. I'll just bring the money in the morning. And by money, I mean that whatever money he collects off this, he had his money bag, his deposit bag with him, I'm sure, from Domino's, and cashed it all in. And he probably just had enough change on him in case she paid him with a 20 or whatever, that he could give her change. So at the most that he would have had, probably, when all was said and done, $30, you know. But he didn't even get that much money on him. He took the pizza, and he got to the place, and 3 men came out of the bushes, and they shot him 3 and 4 times and killed him. He begged for his life. There was a lady who was there who witnessed it, who called the police, saw him shoot him, saw him go down, and thanked her so much that she gave description and she wasn't afraid to come forward. And he offered them everything, and they just wanted that money bag. And they might have walked away with $10, $15 and took a life, took an amazing person that this world had every right to get to know. And I'm so blessed that I got to know him in such an intimate, personal, fun, loving way. I'm so glad that there are memories in my heart that are loving, that involve him. And the woman went out and got him, and they got him up on the porch, and she held him until he died. And I appreciate that. I'm so glad he didn't die alone. And we worried about her, because what a traumatic thing to go through, you know. And when it came time for the funeral is when we realized what a special person Paulie was. He had us, and we were the club kids, and we were the ones that knew he was gay, and the ones that knew who his lover was, and the ones that saw him running around his underwear at the end of the night. We were the more personal friends, but he had friends from all walks of life. The funeral, the funeral was amazing. The church, it was a little country church kind of just outside the area of Dallas, and it probably held 50 or 60 people. The church was completely full, and we surrounded the yard with so many people just wanting to be there. Couldn't even hear the service, but wanting to be there. And when they took his body into the hearse and took it to the burial site, there were over 200 cars in line to celebrate my Paulie. And I miss him. And I wonder what would have happened then had he got to live this life and turn this world upside down. But I hope no one else has experienced that. And the sad thing is, there's too many of you that have. And it's just senseless. And I don't understand it. But I love you, Paul. I always will. God bless. Bye. A lot of kids wet the bed. That's just a fact. Hopefully they'll grow out of it by, 2, 3 years old. You know, nowadays we have Depends and we have other things that are in place to keep it from being such a situation. But I was born in 1969, and there were cloth diapers, and there were the little rubber pants that you pulled up over them, and I freely, I guess, wet myself, and it continued, and I did. I wet my bed, unfortunately, till I was almost 11 years old. I honestly, now being 43, can say I just never woke up. I slept right through it. It wasn't that I was lazy. It wasn't that I didn't want to, use the bathroom or whatever. I mean, who wants to lay there in wet pajamas and in a wet bed and get the griping out that you're going to get the next day? You don't do that on purpose. But I did. I wet the bed. I could not stop it. We tried setting alarms. I mean, we tried all kinds of methods, but I would just sleep snooze right through the night. And my dad never could figure out that I was not doing it on purpose. He always had a paranoid side to him. He thought people were doing things to other people and out to get him, and I understand that. I've had an episode or two myself, but he always thought I was wetting the bed just to be mean, just to give him more laundry, just to be a brat, just to get attention. And it wasn't that at all. And my dad took things to extreme. And he decided that I no longer could, first you do the thing where you put the rubber sheets on the bed. And then you do the thing where you're not going to have any blankets and sheets because we're not going to wash them. You're just going to sleep there on the rubber mat. Okay, well then I still keep wetting the bed. Then it comes down to you're going to sleep on the floor. You're not going to sleep on the mattress anymore and wet on it anymore. So then I moved to the floor. And then it got to the point where my dad decided that I was going to sleep in the living room. Him and my mom were having some kind of a problem, whatever, and my dad was sleeping on the couch. And we had a section in our house where one half was carpeted, the other half was tile. And there was a couch there that kind of was along the border, and my dad was sleeping on the couch due to whatever was going on with him and my mom. And I was to now start sleeping on the floor behind the couch so that he could wake me up and I could, get to the bathroom, and we would stop this, and he would get me trained to get up to go to the bathroom. Well, I would still wet. So then here we go again. Before it was all said and done, I was only allowed to sleep on the tile floor with, like, a bra and a pair of panties on and a trash bag. I wasn't allowed to have blankets anymore. I wasn't allowed to have anything because he thought that would humiliate me, would break me, would be so uncomfortable. But it didn't work, and what's sadder yet is where it butted up to the carpet. Well, guess what? I had gotten a little too close, and I had wet on the floor, and it had gotten onto the carpet and absorbed into the carpet. And like any rational person would do, my father rips every stinking piece of carpet out of that living room and tells me it is our fault that we have concrete floors and that we do not have carpet anymore because I'm destroying it with my urine, and it was crazy, crazy, crazy. And I honestly wasn't waking up. Now, there was a lot of things going on in my life. There was a lot of abuse. I mean, I had been sexually abused by that point. I had been physically abused by my dad and scarred by that. There's other things going on. So, maybe all that played in. I don't know. I just simply don't remember waking up. But I do remember sleeping on the floor, damn near butt naked with nothing but a trash bag and living with no carpet. And it was my responsibility to explain to people why we didn't have carpet when they came over. So, anyway, I eventually just stopped. I think it was crazy. Anyway, whatever. Another story from the Honey Vault. Have a good one. Bye. My dad has always had a paranoid personality, I guess is what you would call it. Always thought somebody was out to get him, always looking over his shoulder. I don't know what was on his guilty conscience, but that's the way he lived. And I remember one time, and it was just out of the blue, we lived in a small East Texas town that had wells on the property that was piped into the house. We had a natural well on our property, and it was awesome. I mean, the water was great and whatnot, therefore. And one summer, we started getting sick. My mom, my dad, my sister's brothers, myself, we were all just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. Could not for the life of us figure it out. could not get over it and get past it. It just seemed like it was getting worse and worse. And I went out into the backyard one day where my father was, and he said, I want to know what you're doing to the family. I'm like, what? I mean, I'm probably 10 years old. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. He said, we're all getting sick, and I know that you're doing something to this family. You're poisoning us. You are doing something to our food. I mean, what are you doing to hurt us? And I'm like, I am not doing anything to hurt anybody. Why would you even think that? Where is this coming from? And I remember standing there going, oh my God, you know, my dad is nuts. And, but he was insistent. He was just demanding to know what I was doing to the family. And there was a water hose laying there, and my dad was very physically abusive to me, and he would grab anything that was available to just take his frustrations out on. And there was a water hose laying there, and I said, just pick up the water hose and just beat me till you feel better, if that is what you need to do, because it's not going to change the fact that I'm not doing anything. You can beat me the rest of the afternoon. I'm not doing anything to this family. And he just kind of looked at me and walked off. And I remember it was probably a couple of weeks later, there were some people that were had been out and about between that time and a couple of weeks later, messing around with the well. And what happened is my parents had planted the well, had planted a garden right there by the well. So as they fertilized and used pesticides and all the different chemicals they used to make the garden beautiful, it was leaching into the ground and getting into the water supply, and then we were drinking it. So we were getting poisoned through the well water itself because it was too close to the garden. So there was never an apology. I mean, that's never going to happen. My dad is not someone who was ever wrong. You just dealt with it no matter how it came. But anyway, it was a very sad thing that I was accused of trying to kill my family, and I was just as sick as the rest of them. But I guess that's just my dad's paranoia. It manifests itself in many, many ways throughout my life. So just check out other videos, and you can learn more about him. He was an interesting character. God bless him.